Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Unfiltered Vet Discussions. My name is Kelly, and I am being joined by Cody, Peter, Jenny, and David today. And we want to discuss veterinary pharmacies in 2024. And it was a near miss that we even got this conversation recorded because we got started talking about it and the horse was out of the barn, people running down the field on this conversation. So Cody, do you want to start off? Because this was partly your musing that came to you.
Absolutely. Well, first off, as a disclaimer, so we don't upset any snowflakes in the crowd. No, I just said that to make Peter cringe. We are absolutely just trying to explore the thoughts and ideas around the pharmaceutical sales within a veterinary clinic. Obviously, it is an important part of making sure that pets have medication, and it is an important part for the practice owners and practice managers to make sure that these are effective and efficient profit centers as well. So if I missed anything there, we try to, if we end up incidentally ruffling any feathers, Peter will smooth things out at the end of the podcast. So I, in Canada, am in a very unique position that I feel like I get to operate my veterinary pharmacy somewhat in the past, right? Because in Canada currently, there are very limited options for pet owners to access any sort of prescription pharmaceuticals. We do not have the ability, as a pet owner in Canada, there's no ability to get parasiticides, to get prescriptions filled online. So I get to run a very traditional pharmacy in my veterinary hospital. But when I look at my pharmacy and when I'm trying to be, a great practice manager and practice owner, I see a lot of inefficiencies that exist that I'm not sure I'm doing the best by my business or the best by my customer. And one of the core strategies of the mission of my practice is exceptional customer experience. And because I didn't set up this part of my practice to execute on a 7-star customer experience, I'm not sure I'm doing a great job at it. And just a couple of small examples, right? I don't have great technology in place for those prescription refills. I have hundreds of clients calling every day, asking for manual prescription refills, which is taking up a lot of time. I have very talented veterinary technologists standing all day long next to the pharmacy, filling dozens and dozens of prescriptions. I have not the best inventory management system that could exist in the world. If I had set up my hospital to solely focus on inventory management, it would be very, very different looking. And at the end of the day, I can't have my costs to my customer be any lower because already my COGS are very high because of the inefficiencies that exist because I've never focused on this as the most efficient possible pharmacy. So all that said, I'm looking into the US because I'm also starting to think about like, well, what is the future of veterinary pharmacy? And I feel like you guys are a decade ahead of us. So what is the history lesson of how has the veterinary pharmacies changed? And then what does it currently feel like now? Are we happy with our, being able to dispense our parasiticides and our apoquills and all of our chronic medications? Are we doing a great job as veterinary clinics? What are the opportunities? And where does this all go in the future?
You want Grandpa to start again?
Yes. History lesson, please. We got a good
Get your cane out. Put your teeth in.
Need your walker.
All right. I can't go far back as Noah on this one because I think we didn't have a lot of pharmaceuticals on the ark, if I remember right. But I'll go back to the 70s when I was working in a practice and in New York. So we were dispensing a lot of heartworm medication. and we were hand counting 365 days worth of heartworm medication because that would be a year's worth, and they didn't have monthly products. And of course, as you're counting to 365, somebody interrupted you. You know how that goes. And we had some basic antibiotics and we had some injectables, but the pharmaceuticals were fairly sparse back in the 70s. And we started to see more and more growth of veterinary pharmaceuticals, but for the most part, and we continue to still use a lot of human pharmaceuticals in the veterinary field. I would jump to 1994, which is when Program was released. And Program was the first prescription flea product. And it was the first time in recent history that a product was not only released, but had a backup of online marketing, television marketing. And it grew the veterinary pharmacy, and it changed the dynamics from over-the-counter flea and tick products and bombs and everything else to prescription medication. And it wasn't that long thereafter that other prescription medications, such as Rimadyl, came on board, and we started to get these super products. Now, concurrently to that, we started to do more and more diagnostics and get more and more identification of other issues. And whether we were using phenobarb, which is a human product, or siloxane, which was more of a veterinary specific thyroid medication, we started to see our inventory and our pharmacies grow. And I would suggest that by the 90s or so, revenue from pharmacies were pushing 25 to 30% of the revenue generated by a veterinary hospital. That's the revenue side. And it has continued to grow. And then back late 90s, there was a company called Vetcentric that came out with a plan to help us address convenience and compliance. So the biggest issue when it comes down to the veterinary pharmacy is client-patient compliance. And so Vetcentric came out with an ability to help us with compliance. And I think it was a reaction for a company that was ahead of its time, because we all poo-pooed it. But at the same time, there was a non-veterinary company that came out right in that mid-90s that all of a sudden, using the internet, was promoting get your drugs filled online for lower price, and we'll deliver them to your home. Remember the name of that company, Jenny?
Was that like 1-800-PET-MEDS?
Exactly right. Also known as PetMed Express.
PetMed Express.
Oh yeah, PetMed Express. I was like, but it wasn't 1-800-PET-MEDS, but I couldn't remember the name of it. Yes,
Yeah.
PetMed
Right.
Express.
And so all of a sudden, our fax machines, which we had in our hospitals to make our laboratory reports easier, we killed more trees because of requests for prescription refills from 1-800-PET-MEDS. And what that did is it all of a sudden told us as veterinarians that there was competition out there. Shortly thereafter, I started to see pharmaceutical advertisements in the pharmacy at Costco and Target, and $4 prescriptions being filled, and clients asking us to have prescriptions filled. And the amount of time that my staff was dedicated to taking the freaking faxes and determining whether they could be refilled or not, all of a sudden the pharmacy became a nightmare. And I think it's continued to become more and more of a nightmare over the last 20 years as the competition has gotten greater. Online pharmacies have gotten a better foothold, and the veterinary pharmaceutical industry has gotten into the multi-billion-dollar competitive world that we're in at the moment. And now we can integrate the fact that we also have buying groups, GPOs, that are working with veterinary hospitals out there to try to be competitive. We can also talk about the fact that many of the manufacturers have come up with competitive pricing. And honestly, if you look at the national corporations, they have also thrown a monkey wrench into it because they have been able to get economies of scale in the purchasing of these same pharmaceuticals. And so the pharmacy, in many cases, veterinarians have to decide whether they're going to be a golden retriever or a Jack Russell. If they're going to be a golden retriever, they're going to classically do what golden retrievers do, is when anything comes and confronts them, roll on their back and pee on themselves.
I feel like you hate golden retrievers. You talk about them peeing on themselves. You talk about them
Peeing
peeing
on
on
the pet food.
the pet food. Like, what
Would
do
you
you
like
have
to see the
against-
pictures of my golden retrievers on the wall?
Yeah.
In
No,
my
okay.
opinion, I think veterinarians need to be Jack Russell Terriers and figure out how to grab our clients by the ankle and get their attention that we can be the source for ethical pharmaceuticals at a reasonable price that is guaranteed and supported through education and communication by our veterinary hospital teams.
And-
That means marketing, Peter.
and-
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and you add in the current, so the history, it was a sought after revenue stream. Letting, I'm an advocate of let that go. Have what you need for your clients, but let go of the thought that it's a must-have revenue stream. It's something you do for convenience of the clients and to practice the medicine that you believe in, but and so thus it's a revenue stream versus it's a revenue stream. We've got to do all the vaccines. We've got to have all the parasiticides. No, because the markup's not there, especially the drugs coming out now. And oh, we're going to raise our price to you, but we don't want you to raise the price to the clients. Oh my goodness. I think have the online store and spend the time doing other things and focusing on the medicine. Even in the large animal side where you have the drop ship, when you've got large dairy barns and food lots and whatnot, where yeah, the client's placing the order through you, you add 4 or 5%, and it's directly shipped to the client. It's only going through your office, and you're doing it out of a convenience. I do a lot of work with AABP, and I see folks doing millions of dollars of drop ship. Yeah, it's a lot of revenue. It's just not a lot to your bottom line. And so the days of it being a lot to your bottom line, I think, are gone. And the convenience of the online store for clients and saving the team time, carry what you need. I visit every practice I value, and I go in and I look behind the reception desk and they've got every flippin' parasiticide. I'm like, no, you have one that you believe in, and then the online store, we can get you, if you really want X, we can get that for you, but you don't have to carry them all. And the more you carry, the more the creep is, which is flat out theft. But it's acceptable theft, apparently, in most veterinary practices. But yeah, become okay letting that pharmacy shrink. You don't have to carry it all.
Why are they not okay? Why are they resistant to change? I mean, Cody, I get you. You think out of the box more than you're in the box. So that makes sense for you, right? But David, you're just seeing
It's the weight, the chains of history, when it was a revenue storm, but it's not anymore. And it's like pet foods. It's not it's still revenues. It's not good revenues.
Jenny, what are you gonna do? We got the Jack Russell, which I identify. I want to be a Jack Russell in this case. I'm born to be the Jack Russell. I don't know what I am. I'm a pit bull mix. I'm not quite a Jack Russell. But I resonate with David, right? Like, so then, Jenny, what are you and I supposed to do, and what should we be planning for in the future?
Here's what I would say is I agree with David in that I don't understand. Right. So right now we have 2 heartworm preventions, basically because we just brought a new one on this year. So we haven't, got rid of kind of the old one. But people would come up from down south and they'd be on a preventative that didn't do anything for ticks. Well, we have a lot of ticks where we're at. So we said, fine, we can get it from our online store. And that's how it's been. What I will say is Cody, what I heard from you was a lot less about selling and a lot more about inefficiencies. It was a lot less about I'm offering all these things and I don't know, and and a lot more about I just don't know how to make it work. So here are the two things that I do and I say to everybody is one, have a good online pharmacy, which it sounds like maybe yours isn't
Not an
the
option.
best, right?
Right.
But in
Canada.
America, I don't understand why that's hard, but that's for another day. But for those who have online pharmacies and put them in place and do what was it? Ron Popeil set it and forget it. Like, wasn't that an infomercial for a rotisserie?
Oh, yeah.
You set it and you forget it. You cannot do that with your pharmacy. You have to be monitoring it, making sure that what you have is what you support, what you want to have. Make sure that, you can't just put it up there and say, okay, whatever happens, happens. I hate inventory, despise it. When I took my CVPM test, it was the lowest score that I had on anything because I don't like it. That's not how I'm a big picture person. I don't like spreadsheets. Ugh. So number two, I hired an inventory manager. I have someone who came from retail who loves inventory.
Nice.
Fantastic for her. I think she's crazy, but I love it, right? She utilizes the software that we have. She makes sure that all the, she comes to me if there's like a big deal, like, hey, for AAEP, we buy our vaccines for the next year. This is how, what we can get, how we can get the best pricing so that we can keep the prices low for our clients so that, we can bring in this amount of product, but it's not going to go bad. She's on top of all that, all those details that I wouldn't pay attention to. So Cody, as a practice owner and a practice manager, if that's not your jam, find somebody whose jam it is and put them in charge of it and trust them and give them the tools that they need. Delegate it and empower them to do these things so that it can be run efficiently. Because I will tell you, before she started working for me and I was doing inventory, it was one, probably illegal, some of the stuff that I was doing. Two, it was not efficient. We were running out of products. We had too much products. Like, it was stupid because it's just not how my brain works.
So
She
I
walked in
want
and-
to jump in
Yes.
and interrupt because I'm just itching to find
Do
out.
it.
With an inventory specialist, what are your COGS as a percent of revenue?
I don't know. I just said
What's
I don't
your
like
financial statement?
spreadsheets, David.
Okay,
Hang
What's your
on.
data?
so David, so
I
so I
think-
have those. I have two inventory, like I have an inventory manager at each practice.
Yeah.
Empower them with all of the possible tools that I actually can. And I'm still not convinced that a veterinary hospital can do as good a job as another business whose sole job is to do this, right? So for you, David, my prescription medications and my consumables right now are 15%. Okay. And then my total, because I include COGS is also my total COGS, right? So
Right,
COGS is
labs
also
and-
something that can be dissected, is 30%. Both of my practices are exactly the same.
And is that a mix or 100% small?
That is small in one and mixed in the other, and they're both exact
And they're
same.
both 30. Yeah.
So that's
I
too high.
was trying to
And
look
they
mine
were-
up for you.
I push them every day to get that down. One of the things I hate is labs, right? I'm upside down in my belief on my in-house laboratory, right? 80% of my total labs is in-house and only 20% is reference. I'm trying to change that. I'm working on changing that.
So if you took your one thing that we talked about before, income to expense ratios, I'd be curious to see if you have your in-house lab divided by your in-house lab expense, where that ratio would end up. The old target was about 6. If you just have all lab together, the target reference lab and in-house, the target's around 4. Be curious to see where your numbers end up diagnostically with your COGS at 30%.
Well, and David, one of the things that we don't take into consideration are the hidden expenses in all of this
Right.
stuff. You know, the
Right.
human resources, the physical plant, and everything else. And the biggest issue that we deal with in veterinarians is that revenue is their bank statement. It's their comparative. In other words, mine's bigger is about revenue. And it's not about profit.
Yeah.
As David is the prophet of profit, we need to be redirecting our conversation to profit. And I would suggest that for every dollar you make profit, it's one less dollar that somebody else is making in profit. I didn't say revenue. So if you can keep the relationship with your clients by dispensing medications and make $1 of profit, including all your expenses, cotton balls, pill vials,
Right.
etc., I think that is something to focus on. The problem is we lose money a lot in our pharmacies and other things because of the inefficiencies of what we do. The fact that we've got a $300 bottle of a pharmaceutical that gets expired means we don't know inventory management. But if you can turn your bottle of prednisone in a month, that's pretty darn good. We didn't go to school to learn how to be inventory managers. Cody, if you want to, you are 20 years behind veterinary medicine in terms of your pharmacy. Eventually it will come. Why not mail clients products? That's what we started to do to compete with PetMed Express, et cetera. Why not ask them what they want? Start to look at the convenience. And one more thing, look at injectables, because clients never complain about an injectable product. And if you can start to integrate injectables into your pharmacy, they have high margin, high return, and clients don't complain about the price. So there's a whole bunch of different ways to keep the profit in the pharmacy, but we get hung up on the revenue. And that's why veterinarians have not wanted to give it up.
Yeah,
Can I say one
and
thing,
they
though?
think the markup is profit. Sorry, Jenny, but they
No,
think
you're
the
okay.
markup is profit, and the markup is not profit.
Right.
Ugh.
What
That's a whole nother podcast.
David's very passionate about this. We should do that on the next one.
Yeah.
The profit of profit.
What I was going to say is, with regards to pharmacies, if your client chooses to go somewhere else, don't make it difficult for them. I have heard of people charging, I'm going to charge you to come and pick up a written prescription. I'm not going to work with this pharmacy. I'm not going to do. And I just feel like we are a service industry. Peter says it all the time, right? We are a service industry that offers medical care. So why are we saying I'm going to charge you $5 for your prescription because you're not using my pharmacy? People have the right to go wherever they want to. And I think you're shooting yourself in the foot. I've had multiple clients try and switch to us because they got ticked off about a $5 charge to get a prescription filled through Chewy because it was going to be cheaper. Like, don't cut off your nose to spite your face. I get that you're angry, and I get that some of the online pharmacies or pharmacies aren't always easy to work with, but don't forget that we are a service industry by, to nickel and dime your clients because you're mad. Like, that just is, to me, just very dumb. That I could talk again another 20 minutes about that.
And don't price match. I think add $1, get close, but don't match. I hear the inventory is a frustration for many practices. And
David,
there's not a silver bullet there, unfortunately.
your dad and I made lots of money in pharmacy.
Yeah.
We took the cow and made ground beef out of it when we should have been milking it. Because, prednisone is a penny a pill. It cost me 30 cents for 30 pills. You add on a couple of dollars here and there for staff and inventory and management, and it went out the door for $15 minimum. How much gouging did we do? And I'll be quite honest, because I was part of it. And how much gouging did we do that's now coming back to haunt us? So remember that we don't have to do things the way we did, but what we really are working on is the relationship with the client. and trying to meet their needs from a service and convenience standpoint.
Would you like to wrap it up from there, Peter, today?
Well, I'm going to wrap it up the same way I wrapped up the last one to a degree, which is to basically say for any of the pharmaceutical companies who are listening to this, we are huge advocates for the need for pharmaceuticals. The same thing with distributors and manufacturers. We do have to figure out a way to do a much better job of inventory management and inventory oversight, so it's less of a hemorrhoid than it actually is. But at the same time, we need to think differently. We need to look at how the future is going to look, and it's going to be about convenience. These zillennials, I heard that term the other day, zillennials, want to fill their prescriptions at 3 o'clock in the morning after they get done binge watching Mean Girls. So we've got to figure out ways to meet their needs. And Cody, in your situation, talk to veterinarians who were in practice 20 years ago and see what American veterinarians, what they did 20 years ago, because I guarantee you within the next 20 years, you will be dealing with the problems we're dealing with now.
And I think in hearing all of this and then taking some of my preconceived notions and thinking about the future, I think I'm still advocating for my practice to be a Jack Russell lab cross. And I think there is amazing opportunities for that to be a profit center, but I have to always look back at my mission. And if my core strategy is amazing customer experience, I don't think some of the things that I'm doing today in my pharmacy are best serving my clients, and I'm going to let those go. And I think that there's actually more profit in that, because I'm adhering to that mission, and because I think that I can't do it as well as some of the other places are going to do it in the future.
I
Because
want
that's
to
focus, and that's their
throw
mission.
one final comment on that. I just want to give kudos for the fact that you have a mission and you're using it to make decisions for the management of your practice. I would foster less than 10% of the practices out there would follow in that path. Dude, that rocks right on. Number one. Well done.
And I will echo that with David, because I do a scientific survey called Raise Your Hand. How many of you have a mission, vision, and
Yep.
core values? And it's less than 25% have any of them. The one that they tend to have is core values, because that's easy. Most veterinarians have no vision, and without a vision, people perish, as well as practices.
Yeah, 100%. It's sad, but
No.
you're not. Oh, I loved it. I got
I know.
goosebumps when you're using that for decision making in your practice. Well done.
Hey, Kelly, I got a great idea for our long form podcast. How about Jenny and I show David our some of our numbers, and he can work through our cogs in tedium live on the air, and we'll spend 2 hours just combing through all of our different margins.
Do you want to just see me cry? That sounds like hell to me. Oh my God.
I would
That
love
would
to
be
see
fun.
that. I want to watch them pull the nails out of Jenny's fingernails as she's scratching at the door to get out. So
I'm all in.
Well,
I'm sure you are.
Tony, we're out of the box thinkers here, so sure, I'm game. We can talk about it and come up. It might be a workshop focus versus
Yeah.
a longer form, but yes, and I think also another podcast too is around mission and things like that for future here people. We'd love to hear your comments as well, because I know in the marketing world, when we talk about goals and missions and things, those get really muddy really quick. And then the pet owner gets really confused because marketing, like you can't have mixed messages in marketing because it just doesn't work. So lots of future conversations here at Unfiltered Vet Discussions. So please chime in, because we're never short of ideas. We just have to be quick enough to hit the record button as we're talking about them so that you can join us as well. Until then, please find us on social media, like us, share us. We'd love to hear comments from you all. And we'll see you soon. Talk to you later. Bye.
Jazz hands.